everybody, and welcome back to the light side
of the paranormal.
Today we are just going to be talking about a couple of spooky-ish type stories that we remember from our childhood. Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first? I have
You
two
can go
stories.
first.
Okay.
So I should tell you guys that most of the stories that we're going to be sharing, we have not told each other about, so the reactions will be genuine.
Yeah, it's more fun that way. So my first story is when I was young. I'm gonna say, like I've said in other videos, I have like no concept of time. I have no idea how old I was when this happened.
It's okay.
I'm gonna say like maybe 11. My dad and I were boating and it was just the two of us out. I think we were fishing. I remember very clearly we came upon this one area and there was like a rock cut cliff kind of on the side. And as we came up to it, we saw this guy was on, I don't know if it's called scaffolding. I know scaffolding is like stuff that you build up and stand on and work on. But this was like hanging down over the cliff.
Oh.
Like a window washer type kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
So he was on that and he was working on, there was a huge dragon that had been carved into the side of this rock cut. And like, I'm talking huge. And he was working on it and...
Like, was he carving it?
It had already been carved. He was painting it.
Oh, okay.
So he had carved it and now he was painting it. And it was like reds and green. It was kind of like in the style of like Chinese dragons, kind of like in the parades and stuff that they have, that kind of style. And we went up and we slowed down. My dad was like, oh my God, that's amazing. He had said to the guy, like, this is amazing. The guy was like, thanks and stuff. And he was just working.
So you talked to him and everything.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And we kind of putted around like in our little boat, like watching him for a couple of minutes. And then my dad was like, wow, we got to tell Mom about this and we should come out tomorrow and come back and show her. And I was like, yeah, we got to tell her. This is being like in like 94 or something. We didn't have, it's not like you just have your phone where you can take a picture.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have a camera. We went home. I don't remember mentioning it to my mom. What I remember next is mentioning to my dad, hey, are we gonna go show Mom the dragon? And him having no idea what I was talking about. I was like really confused as to why he didn't remember this. And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, yeah, we went, I like explained it to him and he was like, no, I don't remember that. That didn't happen. That must have been a dream. Lots of things happened to me now that I, like looking back, I can't remember specific situations, but I remember in my head hearing my parents say, that didn't happen. That must have been a dream. But I did, and I've always dreamt very vividly, but I've always been able to tell when it's a dream.
And that's it. Like, I think that skeptics always chalk it up to like, oh, it's just a dream. But I do feel like most people are aware of when they're in a dream state.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, they'll find out when they get that I'm awake moment. So if you just continue to be awake, living that.
Who's really like, was that a dream or was that real? Like, I feel like I'm not easily getting confused my reality with my dream world.
Yeah.
Yeah, in waking state, I'm not confusing my dreams with my reality. Bringing it back, like, he didn't remember. And then we had gone boating again. And I was like, do you remember when I told you about that thing? And he was like, yeah, I remember you telling me about that. And I was like, can I tell you where to go? And we can see if we can find it. We couldn't find it. In my head at the time, I had like a very clear understanding as to where we found this. And I couldn't even find the rock cut where, I mean, there were rock cuts, like that's just what that lake is like, but not the specific one that I remember and where I remember it. I was so like down. My brain couldn't comprehend what happened. And for me to just say, oh, must have been a dream, that just wasn't doing it for me. Which is why it still sticks in my brain. Like I still very vividly remember this happening because it just shook me up as like, I'm not okay with just being like, I guess it was a dream. Like, no, I remember this.
Would there be a way of contacting anyone that's familiar with that area?
It's not a big lake, and it's a very small town that I grew up in. It would be a thing there if that was real. And it's not. And I've now with good old, Google and stuff, I've looked it up and it's not a thing. So the only thing I can think of is that, and I sound crazy, I saw a shift or something in a different reality that I wasn't supposed to see. You hear people talking about losing time, or you hear people talking about stumbling in on a restaurant where the next day that restaurant didn't exist, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I have an obsession with like listening to time glitch stories, or like,
it's so neat though.
Dimension skipping and stuff where people, where people will go to a restaurant in like a town they've never been in, like, or they're just like passing through and then going back and that not being a place, or that being a rundown building, and them being like, that was a restaurant 2 days ago, and the locals saying that wasn't a restaurant for years.
Weird.
Right? Like, that's a thing. That's something, that's the only thing I can think of happening, and why I remembered and my dad didn't. Maybe I, being a kid, the memory stuck. Being an adult, it was easily erased, probably the way it's supposed to be. Maybe there's something about the adult brain that is, when you're supposed to, maybe when you see those things, you're supposed to forget about them instantly. Because you're not supposed to remember them.
Yeah.
But kids, it doesn't work so well on kids, maybe, or something. I've had a few things like that happen, and the brush off of a dream or something just doesn't cut it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my, and even, I should say too, like years later, like I might have been like 17 or 18, and I was like, hey, do you remember how I was like hung up on this dragon thing? And my dad being like, I don't remember you even talking about
Oh my gosh.
I will say though, my parents are like not the greatest for memory, like for remembering things. Like, I know like just everyday things that I remember happening, and then being like, that didn't happen, and me saying, no, it did. Your memory sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, him not remembering. I wonder if I mentioned it to him now, if he would remember any of the talking about it. I should ask him, and then I'll insert here a title of if he remembers it or not. I remember pulling up and seeing the guy was like over the edge in like on like window washing equipment, working on it. I remember you talking to him.
Yeah.
I know it, and then I remember being a kid and you being like, that must have been a dream. But I remember, it's one of those things that I remember so clearly. And then I remember going back out with you and we couldn't find it. And just being so confused, and it just sticking in my brain because it just seemed so real. I'm like, maybe I saw a different reality.
Well, that's entirely possible.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember you mentioning it. I don't know. I don't particularly remember it being true.
Yeah, okay. And that's the thing, is that if it was true, it's such a small town, that would be a big deal.
Yeah, it would be known by more than just...
Yeah, it would be some form of like attraction of some sort.
Yeah,
like.
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
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 Okay, so I actually had to call my cousin to jog my memory about a couple of these stories, but the second she started telling me them, it came back like it was yesterday. So I've always been into the paranormal and the magical and the enchanting world. It's always been interesting and just a huge part of my life, really. So from a very young age, we being me and two of my cousins, we would walk around the small town that I lived in with the schoolhouse. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please watch our first paranormal experiences video. And we were going to see different graveyards and exploring them and having a good time. And then on our way back, there was this really old rundown house that was abandoned for years directly across from my grandparents' place. And we always found it so fascinating. It was so beautiful and like all full of moss and vines, and it was so cool.
That's like such a staple of being a kid, like having that house in your neighborhood where everyone would like walk by and be like,
ooh, that's the haunted
house.
Yeah.
Right?
So that was the house, and it was directly across from my grandparents' place. And finally this one day when we got old enough, I think we were like around 9 or something, we said, okay, let's like explore this house. But we both knew that it would be dangerous to go inside. So we didn't go inside. We just walked around the outside, got a closer look at it. Like I said, on our way back from the graveyards. So we were walking around it, checking it out. It was so amazing. I wish that they somehow were able to preserve it because it's since been torn down and removed. But I was walking and looking at the front of the house, and in the upstairs window, I saw a woman standing in the window. And I told my cousins, I said, hey guys, there's a woman standing in this window, like come see the window. And they looked and they saw her too. It was so amazing. And we wanted to find photos because there was a bunch of junk that had like fallen out of the windows and things from inside the house. So we were like going through all the belongings outside, cool, looking for photos to see if it would match the person that we saw in the window. And unfortunately we didn't find any, but there was a lot of really cool like old records and things. And yeah, it was really awesome that she remembers it too, because it's not like one of those like, oh, I don't remember that happening.
Yeah.
Like she actually did confirm that it happened. And yeah, so that was one of my first times seeing a ghost.
Cool. Mm-hmm. I remember the school that this happened at. So, and I only went there JK, SK in grade 1. So I'm narrowing down my timeline a little bit more. It happened in one of those grades. I'm thinking it was Halloween. There was a bunch of us, I'm assuming like the whole school, outside with our teachers. We were doing like some sort of parade kind of thing where like each grade was in a line. I remember being in a line behind our teacher.
Right, because you go show each other your costumes in the different classrooms.
Right. Yes, it was something like that. We had done our rounds in the school and we were outside for some reason. And they were in a line. I remember being in a line all behind our teacher, and there was other grades too passing us and stuff. And then we were kind of stopped and the teachers were talking. I don't know what was happening. Also, like I was super young. But our school, that school was bordered by a forest. And it's funny now because now school, unless it's just like where we live, but school here is not like that now. Like you have a chain link fence.
Oh yeah, like the kids are not getting out of there.
No, yeah. So when I was a kid, there was a forest. There was no fence.
We had that too growing up too.
We had, maybe it's a small town thing. I don't think it's like that anymore though. There was orange boundary markers on the trees. Was yours like that too? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there was orange spray painted markers on the trees, and you were just told you don't go past the boundaries, and you just did it because you weren't a little shit kid.
Yeah.
Like, you just listened and you did it.
Yeah.
And
times were so different back then.
Yeah. And it was like they had cleared part of it like for our play area, and we had a playground and stuff. But then like it got denser and denser further back, and that's just not where you didn't go back there. And I remember that forest always kind of like being a little eerie. And then this situation happened, and then I remember at like a later time our teacher taking us out for an adventure like in the forest. We were looking for a tree, like we were learning about trees and stuff, and being out there and being like looking over my shoulder and stuff, like, because of this situation.
What did you see?
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you. So we were standing in a line, and I looked into the forest, and there was trees, and it was dark back there, and I looked and I saw two eyes glowing the way they would like a cat or a raccoon at night. You know, like the way the light catches. But it was during the day, but the forest back there was pretty dark. Okay. But they were illuminated. And they were large too. So, I mean, they looked like eyes to me. Thinking back, maybe they were two light orbs that were side by side.
Maybe.
But they were side by side. I'm gonna say they were maybe the size of like golf balls.
Do you remember what color they were?
They were white.
Okay.
They were very like white. And I was looking, and I remember going to my friend, do you see that? And her being like, what? And like annoyed. Classic 6-year-old annoyance. Like, what are you bothering me with? No.
I'm busy.
But her being like, what? And I was like, I see eyes or something in the forest. And I don't think she saw it. But I was alarmed enough, and I thought they were eyes, and they were high enough off the ground that in my brain I was like, this is a wolf, or this is like a werewolf or a bear or something, like high enough that I'm gonna say they were like not even like 5 feet above the ground. And they were looking, and I'm going like this, and I'll tell you why in a second, but they were looking. And I was like...
Can I just comment that if it were an animal, it probably wouldn't have been glowing white. It would have been glowing like gold or green or something like that. So
and now that I think about it, it was daytime and I saw nothing around it. I just saw the lights.
Okay.
Like there was no body shape around it. It was dark back there. I think maybe I just shrugged it off and thought, I just don't see what's behind it because it's dark.
Right, it's not like you really knew about orbs back then.
Yeah, no. And so to me, because they were side by side, they look like eyes. And I keep doing this, but I'll tell you why I keep doing this. Because in my brain, I was like, I was alarmed. As soon as I saw it, I was alarmed. And my brain was like, do I tell the teacher or not? And so I was like, maybe it's somebody playing a prank, which is why I think it was Halloween, because I remember thinking maybe someone's trying to freak us out. Maybe it was, I forget the janitor's name. There was one janitor, everyone knew him. He was like Mr. So-and-so. And I thought maybe it's Mr. So-and-so holding flashlights pretending to be eyes.
Oh.
And yes, that's why I keep doing that, because my brain tried to rationalize it as that. But I think, I don't remember clearly, but there was a moment where I was like, that's not right. I don't know if they went off and on, like a blink or something. But something happened where I was like, that's not right. So I ran out of line up to my teacher, and I got in trouble for running out of line up to her. And I'm like, no, but miss, I was like, look, there's something in the bush. There's something in the forest. And she looked, and around that time, it started to get really dark and almost stormy-like. Because I remember the other teacher being like, we should go inside soon. It's gonna rain. And her being like, I don't know what you're talking about, honey. And then her looking. And then I remember her very quickly being like, get back in line. And I was like, oh, okay. So I had just gotten in my head, I had just gotten in trouble. So I went and got back in line, and I was just kind of keeping an eye. And I kind of looked to see what she was going to do. And she was whispering with the other teachers. And then there was a very sudden, everybody in the school now. And we all went in the school, and I never heard anything about it because they're not going to update a child on what happened. But
unfortunately,
maybe it was some type of animal, that maybe it was a bear or something, it was, to me, it registered as like humongous. And in my head, I had pictured, for whatever reason, like, because I didn't know, I was young, but in my head I was like, this is a very large wolf creature that is not normal. Like, it's not a regular wolf. I didn't know about werewolves or anything like that. Like maybe
direwolves.
But yeah, like I didn't know anything about any of that. But in my head, I was picturing behind those eyes a creature that was not supposed to be here.
Well, were there any like legends around that town?
No, but do you know what? That town, anybody who's watching this, they might see this differently, but in my personal opinion, or at least like, maybe not strange deaths, but like a lot of people die in like really weird ways and stuff. And I love that town, but it's different. It's different. And like, I don't know of any legends or anything like that, but maybe there's stuff I don't know. But I've Googled stuff before, and it's not like anything really solid has come up. I remember thinking about those two situations up until now, like up until adulthood. Like I've always remembered them. They've always stuck in my head as being like strange things that happened that I don't have validation for.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I wish I would have that validation of someone else being like, yes, I see that ghost too, or something, you know what I mean?
That was one of the cool things about having like a family that sees too, right? Like I never I never felt crazy until I got older. And then people were like, no, that's not normal, you know?
Right.
Because growing up, that's who I was surrounded by, was my family, and that was just our norm. My mom has 3 sisters, and all 4 of them see spirit, see ghosts or whatever. Like, and now so do all their children. Everyone in that family, like all those sisters, have at least 2 kids each. So we all see. That was one thing that was really nice growing up, was that validation.
It's nice to have that. Yeah, like I've said it before, I'm an only child. So I had no other like siblings to like jaunt around with. Right. Most of the stuff I did was alone or with like my best friend, and she was not into all of that stuff, but I've dragged her through a lot of stuff. I'm gonna have to interview her sometime about all that. But yeah, so like lots of times I'm like left wondering, like, did that really happen? I don't have a sibling to look on to be like, do you see that too? Or something. It was just me.
I do have one more story.
Okay.
It's a short one. The same cousins that I went to the graveyards in that abandoned house with, we were at our aunt's house. She lives in that same small town too. And we loved playing at her house because it was a lot more open.
Yeah, no, I hated playing hide and go seek. I never liked playing it. People were like, let's play hide and go seek. I was like, nope. I didn't want to hide alone. Hiding freaked me out. Why am I hiding?
Yeah.
Sorry. My kids were like, let's play hide and go seek. I'm like, nope.
That's true. Like, on top of that, seeking is hard too. Like, seeking is creepy too.
It's just a lot of game. I never want to play a game where, if I'm playing a game with people, I want to be with people, not hiding from those people. Right. Not spending all my time trying to search for people. I spend enough time alone.
I wonder if kids still play that.
I needed socialization. Yeah, they do. They do. My kids play it all the time. They love it. I don't know why. I never did. Anyway, you guys are playing hide and seek. That's creepy enough as it is.
Hide and go seek. And so we thought that it would be a good idea to play it in the basement because there was a lot more like nooks and like easier hiding places. And so I was hiding in like the laundry room area. My youngest cousin was hiding in the den area, and then our middle cousin, like her sister, was seeking. And so we're hiding for a good few minutes. She wasn't able to find us. And then all of a sudden we hear screaming, like screaming. And I come out of my hiding spot. My cousin, she's seeking, so she's already out, and we're running towards her younger sister, who was hiding in the closet in the den. And she's screaming, and she runs out, and she goes, there was someone in there with me, there was somebody in the closet, there was somebody behind me, they were right here, and I don't want to play this game anymore, it's too scary. And it was terrifying. Like, she was convinced, and we believe her. Absolutely, because like I said earlier, we all see, right? So that was the last time we played in our aunt's basement because,
that's some like Conjuring 2 shit, right? Like, is that the one where they did the claps and then the, oh god.
Yeah, like so scary. Yeah. And she had like, just thinking about her basement, it was so creepy. Like, she had this really old like wooden tricycle in the basement, and like sometimes it would just like move across the floor on its own.
You saw that happen?
Yeah. I'm just remembering now that we're talking about the basement, like, dude, it was such a creepy basement.
I just remembered I have another story. Okay, so my other story is something else that I don't have like super good validation for. Actually, I don't have any. I went to a summer camp, like just a day camp.
Sorry.
Because my parents worked. Or where I lived, where I'm from, it's a town, a small town. It's on Georgian Bay. So a very large, well-known lake. And then we had a bridge that would go from our mainland to the island, which I've talked about in my like childhood stories because the island was the native reserve.
Right, yes.
So that's where I saw that one ghost. So we took it, what I thought, and I'll tell you why, I'm not so sure after, but what I thought was a trip to that island. My memory in my mind, we had gone to that island for this day trip, and we were going to visit a ghost town on that island. Cool. Which there is ghost towns on that island. And it's a big island. We walked. So we took a bus there, and then we got out and we walked. And I can't remember the stories, but I remember we stopped in and saw one of the like elders that lived on that island since birth, I think. And she told us a couple of like spooky stories. Cool. I don't remember them.
Aww.
I remember like one kind of, but not enough details for it to make any sense. Right? I don't want to tell it now and botch it, and people who live there would be like, what the hell?
Understandable.
But I remember being like creeped out, and I loved getting creeped. Like obviously,
we were weirdos.
I lived for that.
Still are.
So, and then we walked to, there was this tour guide or somebody who knew what they were talking about, who like walked us along these trails and like showed us different spots, and there was like ruins from buildings, which I found, again, I've found those as an adult, so I know where those are. But then we got to this one area, which was beautiful. It was, on the one side was all lake, and then there was like this dirt path with the trees that kind of went over. And then on the other side were all these white little cottages. And they had been like little homes, I guess. And they were all run down and abandoned, obviously. And we went into a couple of them. It was mainly just like a small kitchen, a living room, bedroom, bathroom. That's it. In all of these little cottages. And kids would party there. Like we found like Polaroids and like inappropriate Polaroids and stuff, and like there was beer bottles and stuff everywhere. But I remember, so the opposite side was a beach, but the beach was covered in rocks. Like it wasn't a sandy beach, it was like a big like stones beach kind of. And they had told us there was like this legend of how the people who lived here didn't take care of the nature and stuff. And so every day they woke up in the morning and there were more and more rocks on the beach until they couldn't use the beach anymore. It was just rocks. And so the legend says, like, when you're there, you should clean up litter and stuff so that maybe the beach will come back one day. So I remember that. And so we set up like our little like camp. We all ate our lunches and stuff on the rocky beach area, and then we all went swimming. But I remember the camp counselors were like, let's clean up our share of as much litter as we can before we go swimming to like appease the nature gods kind of thing. And so we cleaned up as much as we could, and then we spent the rest of the time swimming. And I remember getting out of the water after because it was time to leave, and someone being like, is it just me or is there less rocks on the beach? And I don't know if that was like one of the camp counselors being like, is it just me? Or like, we did a good job. Like,
good job.
But I remember looking around and there was like patches of like sand, like almost like big rocks had been removed, like big rocks. And I was like, oh my God. But whether or not that was just kind of like put into my mind.
Right.
Point is I remember all of this very clearly. And as an adult, I have searched high and low for this place. And as far as I can tell, it doesn't exist.
That's so strange. Like,
once again, my hometown is like super weird, but
you really painted a picture. Like, it sounds like you remember it to a T.
I remember it. And I know it existed because, me being crazy, I took a fridge magnet off of one of the fridges in the house. It was like a little hot dog, like a little like, it was cute. But anyway, I took it. I put it in my pocket and I walked out of there. And I had it for years after.
Wow.
So I know that this existed.
Sorry.
I just don't know where it was because I've wanted to go back for so long. Although, like, maybe it's just like not a documented area of that island. Maybe it's hard to find information about that island. I don't know. But it is a huge, huge island. So I don't know all the roads there, and like I said, we walked through the bush, but like there's like websites like Ontario Abandoned Places and stuff like that I've looked, and I can't find how to get there. And I have looked like on foot, by car, at least 5 times, different times, and I cannot find it because it was so cool. Maybe if I talked to a local there, they would know. They're not always welcoming to like people who are just coming onto their reserve and being like, oh, I heard a ghost story, but which is understandable. You know what I mean? And be like, no, there's not. Get out of here, kind of thing, right? But yeah, that's my story. And no, I don't know anybody now who, like, I didn't stay in touch with anybody I went to camp with or anything, so I can't talk to them about like, do you remember this? I don't have that. So, but that's my other story.
That's super, super cool.
Interesting, nonetheless. Yeah, I remember it. So at least I remember like the legends and stuff because it was so cool. It was right up my alley. I love that stuff.
And to have the validation of the fridge magnet was probably really nice for you.
I remember it happening, but it just kills me because I can't figure out where it was. But yeah. If you guys have any stories like that you're just like, or memories, like I have more that I'm saving for other times where I just don't have somebody else there to say that this happened. If you guys have any instances like that, we're looking for stories, so please email us or DM one of us on Instagram.
DM Jenna, not me.
Oh, okay.
Because my DMs hardly ever work, but emails are a great way to...
Yeah, because we're looking for stories. We want to read some of your stories too, so please send us your stories. They don't have to be like ghosty, they can be paranormally or like memories that you can't, you know, figure out, or dreams that have you guessing
if it's real or not.
Yeah. So thanks again for joining us for a little story time. And remember, if you like our videos, to like our videos and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get notified every time we upload. Please subscribe and like, it really helps us out a lot. And don't forget
to live your life with love and light. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.